Welcome back to the Bear Down Abroad podcast with me, Ant. I'm now in the capital of Sweden, in Stockholm, as Tony's going to slag me for wearing a turtleneck. But I'm delighted to have you here, and the Bears are 7-3. 7-3. Who could have predicted that going into Karen's return? Well, tonight, it's myself and Tony. We're going to talk about our first divisional win against those dirty Vikings, where I am in their capital. And we're going to have a quick chat about Karen and his wrist and the Steelers and whether we should actually give a shit about Karen at all. So, Tony, let's take this.
Hello, welcome back. It's the Bear Down Abroad podcast. We're here. We're in a good mood, Dan. We're in a good mood because we're 7-3. We're 7-3.
I'm
We
running out
won
of
a division matchup as well, which is the key thing there, man. First and foremost, how happy are you to be 7-3 and not be at the stage midway through the season where you're like, I'm already thinking about the fucking draft.
Yeah, this is epic. It's even better when you see the meltdown from other teams. Oh, it's brilliant. Like, that's my favorite part is the meltdown from the Packers fans and the Lions fans and the Packers fans and the Vikings fans and the, for some weird reason, Washington fans. But like I'm finding it brilliant. Shockingly brilliant, if I'm honest. This is a new Chicago Bears. We're finding ways to win, and we're taking advantage of other teams' mistakes, and we're making the big moments, and big players are stepping up. Players are unheard of are stepping up, and yeah, it's may I say positive.
Yes, and it's kind of one of those ones where you're like, I don't want to talk too loud and scare it away, But listen, you've got to embrace it. You've got to embrace this time just now. We're doing a lot better than we probably thought we were going to be at this point in the season. And like, listen, this is sort of like a free year, And it was, I don't know if it was you that said that before or someone else, but you've always got this year where there wasn't too much expectation. You're building up a little bit, but lo and behold, here we are, and the Bears are looking good, man. But yeah, so it's good to catch up with you again, man. Thanks for everybody for tuning in as well. We're back now on Wednesdays. That's going to be the plan moving forward. We're no longer going to do Mondays. Wednesdays is easier because it means that we can talk about the game from last weekend and then look forward to the game from next weekend. Until such times that we can maybe get to this stage where we can do more than one show in a week. But until that point, Wednesday is the day that we'll be here moving forward, barring any other issues.
It's almost like we actually thought about it.
Yeah.
It's quite impressive, if I'm honest. I must admit, I'm looking forward to this all week. I live in Sweden, as everyone should know, or maybe knows, or doesn't know. And therefore, it is a little bit of Vikings country. So to go and beat those lads is the equivalent of my international soccer team, which did quite well the last few days, beating Sweden. So I find this lovely and satisfying inside when we go and beat the Vikings. Even though, as we said last week, I never really had a hatred for the Vikings compared to other teams. But I think this weekend, I'll start it off by, I'm going to start with this. I think what I love about this team, I love a lot of things with this team, but sometimes it's the unheralded players every week that seem to come up with plays or moments or stuff happening. And this week, again, the same thing happened. Nahshon Wright with a sensational interception. That's one of the best interceptions I've seen a cornerback give in a long time. Absolutely brilliant. And it had a personal moment for him as well with the loss of a high school coach or a college coach. And then you had Duvernay on the kick return and Cairo kicking it through the post. So 3 players that have either been maligned or slagged off by Bears fans all stepped up in big key moments to get us over the line. Well, what's your take on that just on that point about having those kind of unheralded players, because we had the same thing in previous games. We had Austin Booker with a big sack, or we'd have Billings with a block, or you'd have who else could I put it down? Just other players stepping up in big moments, even Luther Burden or Loveland or some of the rookie guys. What's your take on that overall squad feeling towards this thing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We always talk about this next man up thing, and in previous seasons, the next man up hasn't always been the best thing. And it's not to say that the guys that have come in to, cover for the likes of Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon are, mistake free or anything like that. Obviously, Nashon Wright's had his issues. But you've got to give the guy props as well. Like, he came up with a big play in the moment where it needed to happen. And all during that first part of the game on Twitter or X or whatever, he was getting pelters. He was getting absolute pelters from folk on there. Oh, he's this and he's that, and he shouldn't have a Bears uniform on, And it's a weird one as well, because Wright's one of those guys during training camp that everybody was kind of pissing their frillies over, and then all of a sudden, it starts, and then it's like, oh, actually, he's not, you put too much pressure on these guys, too much expectation. And it's always the same. I don't know if it's just Bears fans and other fans do it, but it's like the training camp thing, and this guy's going to be fucking amazing. And then actually, you know what? He's actually a second or third string guy for a reason, and it happens all the time. But yeah, I think he's come up in a couple of big situations over the season, actually.
Yep.
2 or 3 interceptions now, so fair play to the lad for getting out there and doing it, Another one this week as well. We'll talk about it later on, but Devin Duvernay, obviously, with a big kick return as well to set up the winning field goal. Like people are talking about special teams not doing the job, and obviously he comes out and does that, and you got to give credit where it's due when it happens. But I think the thing we've got, and I'll ask you as well about this as well, is the team's just got this feeling about it that we've not had for ages. We talked about it a wee bit last week, the culture that's been built and all that kind of stuff, but it's just a different feeling. And even just watching those videos afterwards with the good, better, all that stuff, and it's just like, I can actually run through a wall watching that, never mind being the guy in the room getting fired up about it as well, man. And that kind of goes back to Ben Johnson and the guys that are in there. I mean, how important is how much of a difference have those guys made to the players that are there this year as well?
We're not 7-3 without the coaches. We're not, and I don't mean the play calling. It's the culture thing. I know people talk about it a lot. It's the non-accepting losses. So
yeah.
we spoke about it after the Detroit game. How are they going to bounce from this? Because that was an absolute bottom of the ground, where the old Bears, where we are, and they've gone and won 7 out of 8, and that has come from a lot of hard work into getting these players believing in what they're trying to do. They've all bought into whatever system that's going to be there, and they're going out and performing. And what I've loved about it, and I meant that by the unheralded players, is you're perfectly right on Nashon Wright. People forget he took a pick 6 in week 1. He now takes an incredible interception. Is he cornerback 1 or 2? No, he's not. He's probably cornerback 3. I'd actually argue he could be 4 behind Smith. People forget about Terrell Smith being out for the whole season because he got injured so early. So he's probably cornerback 4, being told he's got to play cornerback 2, and he's performed like a cornerback 4, but then made some magical plays, which has changed some games. He doesn't make that pick, then they most likely, because it was JJ McCarthy's best pass in the game, they probably get that touchdown. It goes in 10-10. Game's changed. And he's also, as I said, made a pick 6. But there's other players stepping up and making calls and making plays. And that comes down to a feeling that they're all together in this as a unit. And they're all as this one Chicago Bear entity, and they're winning games because of that. I think it's really, really healthy to see, because as you said at the start, this is a 1 year into what we're trying to change. This isn't something I'd expect us to be at this far so quickly. And I think that's down to the culture done by the coaches, not just Ben Johnson, but everything from how the running backs are running with Eric Bieniemy to the quarterbacks coaches, to the wide receiver coaches. All these different positional places are really making us stronger. and they're getting the best out of these players. And like it's the bounce backs as well. Like Noah Sewell had a better game this weekend after having a poor game the week before. Cole Kmet had a bounce back game, and then that compensates then for some of our bigger name players maybe not performing on the day, whether that's Caleb sometimes, whether that's DJ Moore, or whether that's Roma Dunze, whoever you may look at from an offensive side, or even like Grady Jarrett in the defensive side, even though he was better this week. I think that's also where that whole unit is coming together, and people are making plays irrespective of their reputation or their pay grade. And it's just really, really nice to watch, and really nice to finally see our team be the one that does that.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on. And let's not get it wrong either. I mean, the realistic part of the game there was that the Bears got lucky as well. You know, like play against a better team. You know, the Vikings had a lot of drops, especially in that first half, and you know, it could have gone very, very different. But as I say, they just keep finding ways to win. And at this point, we just have to take it and run with it. However, the caveat is that you need to learn moving forward. You know, what can you do better? And I think the big thing for us will be when Jalen Johnson comes back and Kyler Gordon gets back, and the impact that's going to make on the pass defense. But anyway, we'll come back to that. Let's talk about the offense though from that game. Not a fantastic day by any means from anybody outside of the runners. Caleb sitting at 50% conversion, 193 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions. Lot of issues on the field that day. For you, what was the kind of biggest issue that stood out on the offense in terms of you know, not really kind of getting going at any point during the game?
I think that was the worst play calling game that Ben Johnson has called. And yet we still won. We still found a way to win, but I think he didn't call a good game. We ran them, get to the red zone, and we tried to get too cute. We started passing the ball, try to get that touchdown that way, and I think that was something that I didn't understand. It was a 3rd and 1 play and just run the football because we got ourselves down there by running the football, and suddenly we decided to try and throw the football then and try to make these big calls, and just thought he didn't look. He's a first-year head coach. He's an offensive coach. Like players, sometimes coaches don't do exactly what they want, and they get it wrong. He's a human being, but I think Caleb didn't have his best game. I think he was a little bit jittery in the pocket. He was a little bit trying to do a little bit too much instead of just taking the easy ones down. And again, that's going to happen. And I think his playmakers didn't help him. It's a bad drop by DJ at one stage. There wasn't people getting open as they should do. And those are things that this offense going to learn from. Theo Benedetta left tackle is okay, and not being. Darnell Wright got beaten really badly, which is very unusual for him. He's playing Pro Bowl standard, so a lot of little things just didn't go right. But you said we were lucky. I think I agree with you. I understand where your point came from, but we should have had 2 or 3 touchdowns on the board before we get to that point. We should have been in a situation where before we get to the 4th quarter, we should be 21-24 up, and the game's done. And that comes down to either play calling, execution of those plays, or just not combining those two together. And we let them back into it. And I know Duvernay does a great play at the end, but our special teams was awful again. And we give them field position, and suddenly they score another one, and it's back to this we can't suddenly do something again. So I get your point around lucky, and JJ McCarthy was poor, and we got lucky with that, I suppose. But overall, I think the negatives on this from the offense, which is great because we're now going into 7-3 with a little bit of not question marks, but a little bit of things to learn from, and that's when we get a team on the ropes with running the football. We got to keep doing it, and we did it. I think it was Dallas or the Saints. I can't remember which game it was. We just ran and ran and ran because they couldn't stop us, and I think we need to go back to that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the offense, as you say, there's a few different issues there. You know, you look at the stats for Caleb, and they weren't fantastic. You know, there's no doubt about that. But then you look at a lot of the play on the field. So many drop passes, balls again, like, opportunities to make big plays. Luther Burden had a couple of drops. DJ Moore made a miraculous catch with all parts of his body at one point in the game. Like, it felt like the ball was like a hot potato and no one could keep a hold of it at points. The big thing for me was the third down stuff, though. Like, third down conversion was sitting at just 39% for the game, which was really, really poor. The play calling, as you mentioned as well, was bizarre at times. I didn't really know what Ben Johnson's plan was. Some these wide receiver screen plays that he keeps calling, they do my boxing. I am not a fan of them. I have PTSD from wide receiver screen plays from previous offensive coordinators, and it's not going away. So for me, I would throw them in the bin. Few different other issues. Obviously, we talk about the Travis Homer handoff and third and down. That was a face
mask. That's a face mask.
It wasn't going anywhere. It wasn't going anywhere.
Yeah, but it's still a face mask. It's the first down. I get your point, but it's still a face mask on the first down.
But it wasn't called. So
that's the worst call I've seen in the season. By the way, I saw the Miami one. Did you see the Miami one?
I did.
That's the worst play. That's the worst call by a referee I've ever seen in an NFL game ever.
Yeah. No, listen, it was bad. It was bad, but it wasn't going anywhere, though, in my opinion, either. There was the 4th and 2 option, 8 minutes to go in the game. Just before they missed the field goal, they decided not to go for it on 4th down. I think they were only like 25 yards from the goal, 2 yards to go for the first down. I'm like, go for it there, man. Go for it. Get your 2 yards back. And then score a touchdown, and then we end up we missed the field goal. They scored the touchdown, and then we're like, shit, here we are again, having to win this in the final couple of minutes, sort of thing. I just would have liked a sort of different approach to the play call, to the coaching at times. Crimson makes a point in here as well, though. I think week 1, Kevin O'Connell absolutely outcoached Ben. Maybe Ben was a bit apprehensive because of pressure and starting 0-2 in the division. Crimson, you might be right there, man. Like that could be part of it. And maybe there was a wee bit more cautious approach than we otherwise would be. But then at the same time, when you look at the Tyson Bagent thing, like he came in as the sort of decoy, and then they obviously didn't throw it to him, and they ran the ball instead. That was great. And I commented on that at the time because I was like, they did this 2 weeks ago against the Bengals, but they actually did throw the screen out to Bagent, and then he threw it back to Caleb, and then it worked. And I thought, you planted that 2 weeks ago for that to happen now. That's great. But then he wheels Bagent back out again a few plays later and runs the same thing. And it's the most off. You could tell a fucking mile away that we're just going to be doing the same thing. For me, it was just a general kind of disappointment in the way that they came out offensively. Saying that, though, the running game is pretty decent. I think D'Andre Swift was great, 90 yards on the day. Monongai didn't really get involved, though. Were you disappointed not to see a wee bit more of Kyle Monongai?
I think DeAndre Swift was the hot hand. I think he feed the hot hand. And I think that one I have no problem with. I'm a big Monongai fan. Everyone knows on this show. I'm a massive Monongai fan. Have been since he was drafted. But I think Swift was like, it's little things for me. We know Carlos isn't the greatest. Carlos isn't the greatest long-range kicker. So Swift gets 8 yards in the last running play before the kick. That wins us the game for me. And that was off the back of an amazing block by, I think it was Kameth. I think they went off right side, and it might have been Jackson made the hole as well. I can't remember which one it was. Amazing block. Actually, just remember, because I would forget this. Watch the Duvernay run back and watch Josh Blackwell absolutely laying a guy out, which creates that hole for Duvernay to go through. And I have seen nobody comment on that about how Blackwell's importance in his special team since he'd come back. That play alone, he doesn't make that block. We're probably saying 35. It's in the 35 or 37. We have to go and try and win the game with our timeouts. Just thought I'd mention that part. It's another example of a unheralded player making plays and making calls. Even though Blackwell's done a few now this year. For me, I'm okay with the overall offensive line because out of 10 games, that's, as I said at the start, that's the worst offensive play call. I don't think he'll get any worse. It's still better than any offensive play calling I've seen in 3 years. So, like, where we've got to, I get your point around we need to progress, and I get all that, but you're going to have games like this in any sport, and then to go and still win it. I think that gives a credit to our defense. I know, again, JJ McCarthy wasn't great. They hung in there at times. They were a bit lucky, as you said, at times, but they only gave away 17 points away from home to a divisional rival who had been scoring points okay up to that point, and still had Jefferson, still had Addison, still had Aaron Jones, who usually destroys the Bears. So that's another good sign. The takeaway battle yet again won by the Chicago Bears defense. And Dennis Allen's doing some job, considering we hear today that they've got Spidey Man going to be reactivated. His 21-day activation started now. Jalen Johnson is a week closer to coming back. You'd expect TJ Edwards to be back soon. They're getting players back in that defense. When this defense is fully fit, especially in the defensive back position, we're going to be a challenge for teams to play against.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely spot on, and I think that's the key part of it as well, is when we get those guys back, because really they've been considering, how many players they've been missing. I mean, it's not been the worst. I mean, I've been going on about how they had two games in a row there where they were kind of split open for over 400 yards. They also had those 2 games where they gave up over 40 points as well, which isn't great. But it probably could have been a lot worse than that. And that's credit to the coaching. Dennis Allen, I think, has come in and done a tremendous job. And I think some of again, you mentioned at the start of the show, some of the guys that are second string and third stringers that are having to come in and step up have really, really shown out. Just quickly going back to the offensive side of the ball, just before we kind of jump onto the defense properly, one of the key things that kind of stood out for me was how much more Luther Burden got involved this week in the game. In terms of snaps, he lined up in 33 snaps, accounting for 44% of the total offensive downs. Olamide Zaccheaus, off the back of that kind of poor game against the Giants the week before, was only on the field for 10 snaps on the offense as well. So, we and Ben Johnson talked about it last week. He talked about it, I think it was today or whenever it was, in regards to Luther Burden earning, those extra snaps. And in terms of, and we talked about the production from Burden as well last week. We know that Zaccheaus and Burden are different types of wide receivers, but regardless, at this point, Burden's already out-yarding Zaccheaus. And if you had given, hypothetically, if you'd have given him Zaccheaus' targets, he's up there with DJ Moore potentially in a projection, So I think moving forward, it's going to be interesting to see him get more involved in the offense. Maybe finding ways to get him open, because if you look at this offense like that, Rome Odunze's playing lights out most games. DJ Moore is DJ Moore, and he's always going to be a threat. You've got Cole Kmet, who's had a better game at the weekend, and he's been off and on. Then obviously you've got your first round rookie in there as well, tight end, who's getting more and more involved in games. If you get Luther Burden involved in that as well, I mean, that's 5 guys there receiving threats that any team in the league would want to have on their team. So for me, getting Luther Burden more involved in the second half of the season is huge. Wasn't a perfect game from him, as I mentioned earlier on, a couple of drops, but a lot more involvement. What are your thoughts on Burden and what you've seen, and what are your thoughts on what's in store for Zaccheaus as the rest of the season goes on?
Yeah, I think Luther Burden, this is going to sound weird considering Monongai, goes to Loveland, has been the rookies that have stood out more than anybody else. But Luther Burden, for me, in the next 3 or 4 years, will be the best player outside of 18 on this football team. I everything I've seen from, he had a couple of drops, but I loved about it. I got a couple of drops, and next shot he gets, he takes a great catch. He just electrifies every time he gets his hands on the football. I think he is a first round pick that got somehow led off to the second round, and we're going to see this, exactly what Crimson said, this spread offense and this it's not built to handle what we have, because you got Rome Odunze, who's a bit of a different kind of receiver as Luther Burden, but whenever I see Burdens on the field, I want the ball to go to him. And for a rookie to have that who hasn't been involved in this, I think you'll find he'll end up being, I said this last week, it'll be Rome, he'll be 1A or 1B, and Rome will be 1A, and DJ Moore, if he sticks around, will be that third receiver. And then you add on then Zacchaeus, because there is talent there. I know he didn't play well the week before, but there's real talent there, and he's shown he's usually a safe pair of hands. And then you throw in DeAndre Swift's really good in the backfield, or outside the backfield. You've got Kmet, who did a good job. We've seen Loveland, who's just a wide receiver as a tight end. And there's all these other ones. And it allows you then to do your trick plays, because you have that security blanket of all those receivers there. And it must be a defensive coordinator's headache. And I'll say this, we have yet to see them all really firing. And that's why it's even more encouraging at 7-3, because I honestly believe there's going to be a team blown out. We're going to blow out a team at some stage between now and the end of the season. Don't know who it's going to be. We are absolutely going to ball out, because we've got so many talented players that it's going to click at some stage offensively. And that's so exciting to see. So exciting to see where this team can go, because everyone is slagging off the Bears, saying they're frauds or whatever crap, and I find it hilarious. I agree. We haven't even hit our best yet. It's not like we're playing at our absolute maximum and struggling through games and winning last minutes, having played awesome football. We're much better than we've been, but we're nowhere near what potentially this football team could be. You named all those players. Give me one game where all of them stood up and everything was clicking. Not one. We have yet to see that, including Caleb. And it's like when they all click, when Caleb is comfortable in the pocket because the offensive line is giving him full security, and he's got all these weapons in front of him and he can pick and choose as he goes. Good luck covering these guys. Good luck stopping this team offensively.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. And you know, the key date from Ben Johnson's December time football is when it's going to hit the apex for this season.
2 Packers games in a row. Two Packers games every 3.
Listen, December's only a couple of weeks away, you know, so it's a lot of pressure he's put on himself with that time scale. But you know, we'll see how things shake out. Obviously, going to have a short week coming up. We've got obviously the Steelers on Sunday, and then you've got it's a Friday night game, isn't it?
Friday game, yeah.
Mad. It's Friday night for us. It's Friday during the day for any of you lads in the States or whatever. But that'll be nice as well. Actually, an 8:00 kickoff on a Friday. That'll be a nice wee sort of change to the way things work. But yeah, defensively, we were talking about that kind of briefly before. Like they're showing up and taking what the Vikings were giving them. JJ McCarthy or 9 or whatever fucking alter ego he is this week didn't have a great game at all. You know, and that's to be expected from a guy playing his first full season in the league. You know, I think McCarthy long term will probably be a much better player than that, to be fair. But he struggled, you know, and that's what happens.
I don't think he will. I don't think he will. I think he was in a Michigan team that ran the football a lot. He's now in a Kevin O'Connell offense that's not really designed for that. He's got flaws, a lot of flaws. And I think it showed. He's the worst quarterback in that division. And that is saying something, considering I don't really rate the other 2 quarterbacks massively. I must give Jared Goff his credit, though, to be fair. He's a very, very good quarterback. Much better than I even thought he was. I'll be honest on that one. Jordan Love, meh, overpaid player. But JJ McCarthy's the worst of the 4. I think they are. If you're asking real honest Vikings fans, they'd want Darnold back. And I think Darnold's in that team, and when we have a much more difficult opportunity to win it, he gives you chances. Like there's passes that are massively overcooked, overthrown. He panics a little bit. Yes, he's good with his legs, but once you stop that, there's a lot of flaws in that game. When you've got Justin Jefferson as one of your wide receivers, it's your safety blanket all over the place. And Addison is the other one. They're 2 safety blankets, and he can't hit them. He actually can't hit them.
To be fair to McCarthy, I mean, Addison dropped a belter of a pass,
One,
in the first
one.
half. Honestly, man, I get what you're saying. I really do. I think it's very much the same idea as like Caleb in his first year. There was a lot of passes you were like, oh, where'd that come? Honestly, I think it just takes a bit of time for these guys. Too much pressure on young quarterbacks right from the start. I think we need to look at a long term sort of plan with these guys. So, but like the time will tell what JJ McCarthy is, but certainly on Sunday he wasn't great. Defense showing up, obviously 2 takeaways as well. Unfortunately, no sacks again from our pass rush. We're getting the pressure there maybe, but just not getting the sacks at the end. So it'll be nice if we can maybe try and get that turned around at some point this season. I know it's not just about the sacks; it's about the QB pressures, but let's be honest, we want to be getting those sacks. We want to be pushing the quarterback further back. We want to be putting them in third and long scenarios, giving ourselves a better opportunity. I think what we did this week is we took on an offense that was struggling because of the quarterback, and it worked well for us. I think depending, and we'll talk about the Steelers in a few minutes, but depending on who comes out for the Steelers on Sunday, that could look a wee bit different, So it'll be interesting to see what happens. What I wanted to ask you about actually was an interesting one, because another guy who was getting pelters on Twitter was our kicker, Cairo Santos. So again, 4 and 5 on the day, missed that field goal in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes left. When we should have went for it in fourth down, but that's not fun. Missed that. But then it comes down to it, it's on him, it's on his shoulders to kick the winning field goal. And fair play to the guy, he steps up and gets it done again. Santos is not perfect, but I think it's very, very evident from interactions with other players and what you see in the changing rooms that the players and the team love Santos. And I don't think he's going anywhere anytime soon. What are your thoughts on him anyway?
Cairo's being one of those lads that you want to do well, and you're happy. Like exactly what you said. The players love him, etc. I prefer us to get a new kicker. I would have probably looked to keep Moody, if I'm honest. Got longer boot, not as consistent maybe, but he's a longer boot, which gives you that confidence. Were you confident when he was stepping up to take that kick? I wasn't.
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's unfortunately that's his job, and it's not just that though. He can't kick the ball out the end zone to kick off games. That's cost us stuff. You just I want something else. That's just me. I think he's exactly Crimson. I would like the kicker much better than Moody. Okay, maybe, but Moody gives you the option. Moody was very good when he was in Chicago, but just gives you that longer option for longer field goals and longer kicks down the field. And I think we need to move on from Curro. Look at his contract as well. I'd be looking to move on from him at the end of the year. But we have him till now to the end of the year. It just puts under pressure to get those, like I spoke about earlier, it's under pressure to get those extra 8-9 yards of running or passing to get us into that position. And delighted for him to win this. That's good for him. And look, he's won games against the Packers last year. He's won games for us, but he's also cost us games too. So you don't want your kicker you don't want to be nervous coming into that position when the kicker's kicking at it. But overall, I think if we look at defensively, I think you mentioned about the sacks. I agree with you, but also I do think Grady Jarrett got a little bit better this week. He was the one that got close to McCarthy, who then made the throw for Byard to intercept. I think our defensive back play has, some of them have been all-pro stuff. I actually think Byard's in the all-pro conversation. I think Tremaine Edmonds has been in the all-pro conversation. Just by sheer determination and leadership and taking ownership of that position and that position group, and it's great to see. Regarding Cairo, we get you to the end of the year, and I just hope it doesn't cost us a game. I think that's where I want to get with Cairo. We should be going for stuff a lot more because of him, and that's really bad to say about your kicker. I agree with you. We should be going on 4th and 2s because I don't trust him to kick the field goals.
Mhm. No, exactly. That's a big part of it. And yeah, I'm. The thing is, though, I don't want to go down this route of. I mean, would you go down the route of using like a third or fourth rounder on a kicker? You know,
No,
with the
no,
punter.
there's so many. No, I don't agree. There's so many
You're
kickers
going to
out
end up having to pay some free agent a ridiculous amount of money instead. Then, so I don't know who's going to be free in
Yeah,
the off season.
but I prefer to have that and have that consistency basis where you're like, okay, we know that this guy can do it. Packers did it. Packer took an Irish guy, who was kicking, who was a kicker for them, and didn't have to put up anything, and he's doing the same thing as Taylor is. There's players out there in that special team group that you can find,
Hmm.
and I think at the moment people slag off special teams, and I get that, I really do. But at the end of the day, a lot of these games are coming down to the kicker. We've had 2 this year, 3 actually, if you include the blocked field goal. That we won those 3 games because the last person to touch the football was involved with our special teams.
Yeah.
And if we don't get that right, that could be 3 games we could have lost. So you gotta. Well, I accept everyone's like, you can't do this for a kicker, you can't do this. Totally get it. But it's also this other average that they are really important because they're the most clutch players involved in one of the most
100%, man, 100%. And I think if you think about it in that point of view, then about being clutch and getting those game-winning points, Cairo Santos has done it a lot for the Bears. You go back to the Green Bay game in Week 17 last year, and you look at the games this year, as you mentioned as well. It's came down to kicks and things like that. It's I wouldn't be opposed to keeping a hold of him. My thing here is let's not get in the situation where we need to kick from 50 odd yards or whatever, and that'll come with the development of the offense as well. If you're having to kick, then maybe you've got the ball another 15, 20 yards further down the field. And that comes with the efficiency of the offense. So for me, again, it really depends what's available in the off season, but you could probably do a lot worse than keeping Santos on as your kicker. Again, fair enough, doesn't have maybe the strongest leg in the world, but in terms of the accuracy, it's not been terrible. And as you say, it's the mentality part of it. Plus, the team love him. The team clearly love him, and I think that's a huge part of it as well. And that'll go into whether or not they want to keep guys like him about. But listen, what we'll do, we'll move on to the Steelers because we're 7-3. We want to be 8-3, and we welcome the Steelers to Soldier Field on Sunday. Guys, just before we go into that, though, please like and subscribe to the show on YouTube. Tell your friends about it. I've realised apparently that a lot of folk don't know that you and I have a new show, even though we've been doing it for 2-3 months now. So if you watched us on other shows and you enjoyed the content, then come back over. And it's we're going to be doing it. It's the same. We're the same guys. So we'll continue to do that same stuff as well. Follow us on X as well, at Bear Down Abroad. And yeah, let us know what you want to see on the show, and we'll see what we can do. But Steelers, Karen coming to Soldier Field. I don't know what the chat is yet with Karen. I haven't seen the injury report. In fact, actually, what we'll do very quickly, as we did last week, is I'll just bring the injury report for the Bears up on the screen. That came out today. Again, obviously, it's a Wednesday injury report, so I don't think we should kind of get too bogged down in anything here. But the main things that sort of stand out for me, obviously, you've got your Grady Jarrett, Kevin Byard getting your usual rest, so they're going to be fine. TG Edwards is still did not practice. Not sure if we're going to get him back. Really missing him in the center of the field. Jaquan Brisker's there on his shoulder as well, which isn't ideal. I'd love to see him playing, and I think you'd maybe put a post out on Twitter recently about Brisker, and you thought that he might not be available. You can see Kyler Gordon on there is limited. Jalen Johnson on there is limited. Those two guys are back practicing now. Not full practice yet, but at least they're doing something. I think it's probably too early for these guys to come back this week, though. I'm reckoning probably next week or the week after. But anything that stands out in particular to yourself on the injury report, or any general thoughts on an injuries going at the weekend?
It's Wednesday, so I only ever get worried about injury report on a Friday. But it's not great to see all of your linebackers on that. Edmonds, Edwards, and Noah Sewell all did not participate. That's not great. I wouldn't be terrified yet, because that's when, as I said, Thursday or Friday, if they're still on that, then you do start to worry. And Brisker seems to be on it regularly enough. It's good that we don't see, unless I'm completely blind, DJ Moore or Roma Dunze, who seem to always be on it. So they seem to be completely fine, which is good, because they last couple of weeks have been on there on a Wednesday. Kevin Byard, that's a rest, that's fine. Brisker, as you said, like, it wouldn't surprise me when everyone's back if you see Gardner Johnson going to safety beside Byard, and they bring in Kyler Gordon into nickel, and having Jalen Johnson and Stevenson as your outside guys. That would be probably the number one backs at the moment. That's not to disrespect Brisker, but just I think they're probably our best players right now. It's I've seen it worse. Like, again, a little bit worrying. You see the likes of Drew Don with a knee, but again, it's only limited. DeAndre Swift constantly there with a hip. Darnell Wright, that's new, with a pec. But again, it's Wednesday. I'm not overly worried. The guys who were limited usually be fine. I'd like to see Thursday Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, especially those two, go on to the limited element, so that we get them back, because I think we'll need them going into this game. And I've no idea what the Steelers look like injury report wise, but for me, the drama that is Karen continues. The drama queen of the NFL. That's why I call him Karen. Why I've always called him Karen. I've been very consistent in that comment. And I just think it's we got to start looking at. You said this in a tweet, and I think you're 100% correct. We got to start looking at the Chicago Bears and not worrying about who we're playing against, and not worrying about what the opposition's going to do, and not worrying about the boogeyman and all this kind of other crap. That's what he wants. That's exactly what he wants, is people talking about him and booing him and all this kind of crap. I'd almost give him a standing ovation walking in. Like that kind of stuff. It's like, who cares?
I'm so fed up with it though, man. Like, it's not even with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, that's been a big conversation. Would you rather Aaron Rodgers play? I mean, I don't really give a flying monkeys, to be honest with you, if he plays or if he doesn't. If he plays, great, right? Let's beat him. Let's have the last word on this thing, right? Let's do that. I'm all for doing that. But even like people will get injured, and then the Bears are playing the team like 2 or 3 weeks down the line. So, the Bears play them in 3. It's almost like, what, we don't, fair enough. If their team's weakened, then, it'll give us probably a better chance of winning. But we don't, we have to have a bit of belief in ourselves, and that we have a good team, and that we can make an impact, that we don't have to have the other guy weakened just so that we can actually do well. It's a real pet peeve of mine, to be honest with you, man. And I think the mentality is of a franchise that's used to losing. And it's the same for me as like blaming referees and blaming decisions. It's like, it was the referees. No, fucking shut up. That was one part of the game. You fucked up the rest of the game, and that's why you lost, right? I can't get bored with that. It's like a loser mentality, man, and I'm not used to it. Like,
but I get it though, in a weird way, because we've had so much of this our whole lives, and losing, and I mean the one that gets done for us. I think this year I said this in a post, I think, from the show. We've got lucky this year about teams we're playing against who got injured. I think he started off against Dallas and they lost Lamb in the first play. I think it was first couple of plays. We've had some of their quarterbacks against us that have been either banged up or injured. And we've had big players get injured in opposition teams. And it's worked in our favor. You get that look. Our injury list marries that out. But I think what the Bears fans out there that are watching this, what I want them to start taking away is, let's look what the Steelers are thinking, looking at us. And the Steelers going, oh God, how do we play against how do we match up against Coastal Loveland? How do we stop the running attack? How do we stop Monongai and DeAndre Swift? What happens with trying to sack Caleb? TJ Watt's going to be in the room going, I need to get not just two hands on him, I need to get every part of everything I can to hold him down.
Yeah.
You're looking at all these different elements that the Steelers are going to look at us and go, we need to play. They're away from home. They're coming into Soldier Field with the Bears winning 7 out of 8. So how do we stop that momentum? And if there's a Steelers podcast on this, that's what I want them thinking. Oh, they look at our injury report going, oh yes, Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards and Noah Sewell are all injured. We may be able to get at them. This could be that's what the next step in evolution of this football team is. And that also is the evolution of the fan base, including myself. That we need to have that evolution where we go, do you know what, that is the next step that this team needs to make. And it's kind of mini rant. One little thing then is you've got to also accept that other fan bases are jealous and other fan bases are trying to find holes wherever they can just because they don't like you successful. The biggest insult ever, well, this is a monologue, I know, but biggest insult ever is football. I'm not a big soccer fan as much as I used to be when I was a kid, but I'm a West Ham fan. And the thing about being a West Ham fan, he's wrecked my head more than anything else, is no one hated me because they all felt sorry for me because West Ham were shit. So they were all shit, right? So therefore, everyone kind of felt sorry for me. And that was the biggest insult of all because I wanted them to hate me. I wanted them to hate my football team because that's a sign that my team's doing well. What you're finding now with the Bears at the moment is fans are coming out going, oh, but you've a negative scoring rate and there's a pass percentage towards the 19. Doesn't matter. All this bullshit is what fans say. It's what the Bears fans you say to the Packers or the Lions or the Chiefs or whoever they were at. And it's the same. It's all bullshit. So long may that continue.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you, man. We need a different approach, a change in mentality. Everything else is changing this year. That needs to do it as well. Just when we were talking there, I got the Steelers injury report up. So Aaron Rodgers did not practice today. Neither did top running back Jaylen Warren. He didn't practice. He's out with an ankle as well. Alex Smith didn't practice. Jonnu Smith didn't practice. TJ Watt was rest. So was Cameron Hayward. But so we'll see how that progresses as the week goes on. Either way, I don't really care. If they play, they play. If you look at Jaylen Warren, he's obviously top running back for them this year. I think over 500 yards, a couple of touchdowns as well. Aaron Rodgers is obviously the top quarterback as well. So either way, even if these guys play, they're clearly not 100% either. So that's going to be to the Bears' advantage. So we want to see the defense really step up, especially the run defense this week as well, and try and hold Warren or whoever else is going to play to as little as possible. You've obviously got DK Metcalf as well there. He's nearing 600 yards in the year, 6 or 7 touchdowns as well, or thereabouts. So you get guys there that are going to cause you problems on defense. So I think if we, as you mentioned, the linebackers, we need to try and get as many of those guys back as possible. If you're not going to have TJ Edwards, then Noah Sewell, has to be there. Tremaine Edmonds has been great all season. We need to continue with that as well. And we'll see what happens defensive back wise. But either way, I think you have to look at the situation that, hypothetically speaking, if your defense you lose players on defense this week, an injury or whatever, fine. Your offense then has to become the strength, right? And you have to get to that situation of a shootout again, even if we have to go down the line of, like we did against fellow AFC North team of the Steelers, the Bengals. We had a shootout with them. We gave up over 450 yards, but we scored more. At the end of the day, the name of the game is score more points than your opposition and get the win. And it doesn't matter outside of that, really, at this point, how else it happens, because you've got those injuries, because you're having to rely on backups. So if we get a shootout, fine, let's do that. And again, it's that belief in the offense, and that you're getting to that point at the end of November and December where you're saying, yeah, this is when we're going to show out. So show out, turn up and have. Don't drop the ball. Make good decisions on third down. Stop calling fucking wide receiver screenplays. Keep Tyson Bagent off the field for the next couple of games. Otherwise, it's going to get too obvious. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, don't get me wrong. It's not been all bad. There was some good stuff there as well.
But I really do believe that that's all fixable. And this is the part that is exciting for me as a Bears fan. Bears fans need to get excited on this. Is that it's all that you've said there is fixable. And Ben Johnson has proven he is a very, very good offensive coordinator, very good play caller, and he has proven that in his Bears career so far. Some of the calls have been miles ahead of where we've seen it from other teams or other Bears teams. And then you also got the weapons. And what's really, really brilliantly cool is our rookies are standing up. No guy's been brilliant. Like, best 7th round pick I've seen the Bears nearly ever take already. You've got Loveland, who we spoke about at the start of the year. You're like, oh, tight ends take a season to get used to it. This kid doesn't look like someone who needs a season. He looks like he is ready to roll right now. And he's a go-to. He was the guy again this week against the Vikings. Again, the guy that was showing up, the guy that was finding space when Caleb was running. It wasn't your DJs, it wasn't Rome, it was Loveland, who was the go-to to try and get them into better positions. And then we've got, this is after whatever week we're in now, 11 or going into 12, we've got players who are pro bowling. Like, they're actually, like, you could make a really good argument for Joe Thuney, DeAndre Swift, Tremaine Edmonds, Byard, Darnell Wright, all those guys being pro bowlers, and no one else can argue that they're not in the conversation. And that's even before you talk about other guys who've balled out. Stevenson had a really good stretch before he got injured, and that's just there's real opportunities there. We haven't seen DJ fully roll. I would argue that while Rome had a real stretch, needs to go again in that level. I've spoken about Luther Burden. Just there's so much positive that it's coming, and eventually we are. And we'll get to our predictions later on, I know, but there's nothing in this Steelers team that terrifies me. I think arguments you could make is I think Vikings are actually a better team than the Steelers. We're at home where we've won our 5 or whatever amount of games, 3 games, the last 3 games or whatever it is. We look like a dangerous team to go up against. And Chicago Bears fans, when the momentum gets there, 7 and 8 does that. When momentum builds, we are going to be a really tough team to play against. I'm not saying we're going to go and win divisions or we're going to win playoff games. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is that for the first time in a long time, I'm going into, like, okay, what I mean by that is Vikings scored too early to go ahead in last week's game. They gave us 51 seconds with three timeouts. I actually wanted them to score then to give us that time to go and score because I'm so confident in Caleb. I'm so confident in Ben Johnson. I'm so confident in this offense that we'll find a way to win.
Yeah.
I cannot remember.
Totally get that.
Ever having that in my head. Ever.
Yeah. No, you're spot on, man. Like, and there's just a confidence about the team and a confidence about how you feel things are going to go in situations where last year you weren't like that. You feared the worst every single time. So yeah, I mean, I think Steelers coming to town this week. There's definitely not as much to fear. I mean, they're 6-4 on the season, but they're 2-2 in the last 4 games. So they beat off the Chargers. I was looking at the scores here, 25-10. Not a great game there for Aaron Rodgers either. They lost to the Packers 35-25 as well, but back at the tail end of October. They've had a bit of a mixed sort of season as well after a sort of good start. There's nothing to be. There's nothing to be, and this isn't the same Aaron Rodgers, that tormented us for years either. If Rodgers does play, just looking at his stats for the year, he's sitting at 1,900 yards, 19 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 66% completion rate. I mean, Caleb Williams has more yardage than he does at the minute. There's not that huge discrepancy there. Don't get me wrong, Rodgers is still a guy who, in situations, can get things done regardless of how old he is or how injured his hand is. He'll find a way. But the significant part here is that if Rodgers does not play, if the Steelers look at this game and think, well, I don't know. I mean, I think we might go in there and maybe they'll be realistic and say maybe we don't. I feel we can't win this game anyway. Why don't we just sit Rodgers for the week and then they play Mason Rudolph? If they do that, Mason Rudolph is a huge downgrade on Rodgers right there, and that just changes the whole perception of the game.
Rodgers will play.
Rodgers will play. He will play. He will play.
He'd have to be in a wheelchair for him not to play this game because this is probably, arguably, his last season. Can't see him coming back next year, but he'll need a wheelchair not to play in this game.
Yeah. No, listen, I think he'll play. I think the hand will be fine long term, and I'm all right with that. And that's why I said I want him to play. I want us to have the last word on this thing in Chicago. Do you know what I mean? End this conversation, make a point. So I'm all for that. I hope he does play. But as I say, if he doesn't, there's a huge drop off there to Rudolph anyway. But listen, it's going to be an interesting game. And obviously we'll find out more as the week goes on in terms of the availability of everybody and what's going to happen there. Do you want to do your predictions just now?
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
Unless you've got anything else you want to talk about in terms of the actual.
None of the games. I think Steelers are. Don't get me wrong, Steelers are a good team. It's a good way to shut up people. They're 6-4. It's the winning record. It's another example. I say it every week of a Bears game where we need to show something and prove something. And this is another example of a game we I don't know if we're favorites or not, but we should be
3-point favorites. 3-point favorites. Yeah, 3-point favorites.
So then we need to go and show how you handle being favorites, and that's another step for this team, another step for this coaching team, another step for this fan base. All those things need to get there, and if we win 3, then the momentum is on a different level. So that's what I'll finish with that. Regarding prediction, I think we win. And I think this could be the blowout I was talking about. I think we might win like we did against Dallas. I think we might actually win relatively, not comfortably, but we're not. It's not the cardiac arrest Bears that have been there the last few weeks. So I'm going to go with a final score of Bears 31, Steelers 17. I think it's going to be pretty solid performance. I think we keep them off the field. We're very good at doing that. We keep them off the field. I think we get that pressure off the edge a little bit more on Rodgers. Rodgers isn't going to beat you with his feet, so there's not that worry that we would have had against other quarterbacks which we seem to have faced recently. And I think right now, I think we're a more confident, more belief football team, and I think there's a determination to go offensively and perform. And I think it was lovely. I think if you watch the kick for Santos, someone's put it on Twitter, which is really good, is Caleb's reaction. Caleb doesn't give much reaction because he didn't think he had a good game. I think you see that. And I think what you get to give Caleb credit is he bounces back really well. And I just think the Bears are going to be really, really good. I think we're going to be very strong this week. I think you're going to find a lot of play action stuff, which will see the likes of Burden getting involved. I think you'll see a lot more out of Rome. I think you'll see a lot more out of Loveland. And I think we will just steamroll them's extreme, but I think we will always have them at arm's length. I think they might get a close at start of the third, but then we'll push away again and and I just think we might go and score 31 points.
Okay. I think it's going to go down to the wire again. I just feel like it's going to be another one of these games where it's going to be the last drive that's going to determine whether we win again. So I'm going to go Bears 28, Steelers 24, and it's going to be a last drive touchdown there after going behind with a field goal. And I just feel like it's going to be one of those sort of games where it's going to be back and forth, and you're not going to really. I don't think there's going to be either side are going to rush out ahead of the other. I think it's going to be an exchange of touchdowns, exchange of points, or whatever, however they appear on the board. But the Bears will find a way to win again, because that's what this team does. This team just finds a way to win games at the moment, and that's a tremendous building block. And what do you know what's really weird, right? I've picked the Bears to win every single week this season so far. Every single week. And you know, a couple of those were probably a bit heart over head. Um, but you know, I think they've proven that they're finding ways to win. It's not always pretty, but they get it done. So yeah, so that's my prediction. In terms of a bold prediction, um, I'm gonna say that Cole Komet is a lot more involved in the offense this week. I know obviously we're looking at Coast and Loveland, but I think Cole Komet still has a lot to give. It's not been great this year, but I think they find ways for him to be. And I think the game against the Vikings, he really improved, and we've seen a wee bit more of what we've seen from him before. So for me, Cole Komet gets on the scoreboard, but has a bigger impact in the game overall as well.
Yeah, my bold prediction is I think Caleb throws for an absolute crap load of yards. And I think all three wide receivers get touchdowns. I think you'll see Burden, Rome, and DJ all scoring touchdowns. Because I just think that we're just there's a game coming where it's going to explode offensively, and I think this is it. This week, I think there may have been interesting conversations had offensively and where you want to get to and the next steps. And I think it's going to come against the Steelers because I actually don't think it'll come against the Eagles the week after. I think that might be a step way too far. Defensively, I think the Eagles are probably the best defense in football at the moment. So I think this is the week that it's going to happen, and I just feel that coming. I have a lot of confidence in this game, which is very good for me.
Can I be
So
honest? I fear no team at the moment.
I'm not
Honestly,
saying I'm not no. I'm not saying I fear the Eagles. I don't either. I just think they've got a better defense than a lot of teams. I think they're the best defense in football. So I think if
yeah.
we win that game, that'll be a tight 16-13 slugfest. And that's what I meant by that. I'm not fearing the Eagles at all. I'm just saying that I think they've got the best defense in football. And therefore, if we're going to blow out a team, it'll be more likely to be the Steelers than the Eagles. That's what I meant.
Oh yeah, no, but the blowout, absolutely. No, I totally agree with that. But I don't know, man. I just have this feeling we could take on anybody at the moment. I just think the sporting world, the sporting gods are shining down on a lot of teams that we follow at the moment, and don't know what's going on, you know. But we'll take it anyway, and we'll run with it. So
Well,
happy.
you brought it up. I got to say this. Anyone that's American that are watching over there, if you want to watch something just from a sporting, emotional connection, the Irish football team, which is, how can I explain the Irish football team? Jesus. Imagine the Miami Dolphins.
NFL. It's because you give an NFL comparison.
Imagine the Miami Dolphins, but imagine that for 10 years. Years, right? Maybe longer. 14 years of the same shite. Only they have no superstars. They have no big name players. And the Irish soccer team tried to qualify for a Football World Cup. They'd lost to Armenia, which is the equivalent of the Bears losing to a third-rate college team, right? So that's how low they got in this qualifying group.
No offense to any Armenian viewers.
No, I don't think it's Armenians watching, but if there is, sorry about that, your team's shit. You lost 9-1 to Portugal. But we had to play Portugal at home, who are the number 5 ranked team in the world, and then we had to go away to Hungary, who are one of the up-and-coming international football teams with 2 or 3 superstar players on their roster. And we had one player stand out called Troy Parrott, a young lad who plays in Holland. And we beat Portugal 2-0, and then they scored in the 96th minute, which is the last kick of the game, to win it in Hungary. If you get a chance, have a look at YouTube and watch the celebrations, especially in Dublin Airport. The one in Dublin Airport's hilarious, but the way that sport can impact you. And my mother, who's 85, I was talking to her today. My mother, who wouldn't be a football fan, she'd be more of a rugby fan than anything else, but she was telling me how the country's gone mental, absolutely mental. And the joy that it's brought to people, all ages. It's there to watch. Scotland had something very similar yesterday, whatever it was, beat Denmark to qualify for World Cup for the first time in I don't know how many years. But the overall emphasis, even if you're not into football, lads, just have a glance at it. It's emotionally charged. If you don't get them out of watching that and the fans' reaction, and there's a commentary, the RT, the local news or the local news crew, the commentators, it's brilliant because they became fans, and it's class. You brought it up, I just had to bring it up. Troy Parrott.
No, you're spot on, man. Like the Irish team that last week was just phenomenal, you know, and they've obviously got themselves into the playoffs now. Going to be a tough jaunt in the playoffs in terms of how that kind of plays out. But regardless, all you can do is get your name in the hat, you know. And they've done tremendously well to get there. Watched the Portugal game, and I Cristiano Ronaldo kind of annoys me sometimes. He's like a big child. And then he obviously the elbow in the back sent off and all that kind of stuff, and it's joyful to watch that happen. But you see that the Republic of Ireland team don't have any superstars, but they do. They have Liam Scales, centre half, Celtic centre half, Ireland centre half. Liam Scales is a national hero, and that header knock on for Troy Parrott to score the third goal in that game against Hungary was phenomenal. So yeah, really well done to the Irish team. I always like to see them doing well. And Scotland, as you mentioned as well, did really well yesterday as well. That game was mental. Like Denmark were all over Scotland for pretty much the whole game. Even though I don't know if you've seen Scott McTominay's goal, it was like an overhead kick thing, fucking mad. It was 2 each, went to extra time, and then another Celtic man, Kieran Tierney, steps up and scores a belter from outside the box. The place goes mad, similar to the RTE guys. You can actually hear the commentators just like, "Fuck it, I'm not even being professional anymore." Do you know what I mean? I'm just going to go mental. It was phenomenal to watch, and then they scored a fourth goal from the halfway line with like 30 seconds to go. So again, the first time Scotland have been in the World Cup since 1998. And a wee fact was that Scotland actually opened the World Cup that year against Brazil, who were world champions at the time, and lost 2-1 in that day. John Collins, another Celtic man, scored from the penalty spot that day. Aye. So that was the last time Scotland were in the World Cup. Ireland, the last time we're in the World Cup, was it 2002 or something?
2002, Japan and South Korea, Robbie Keane, and we got robbed against Spain. Actually, we got to a penalty shootout, and we should have won it. We should have won it around. I think we scored an equaliser and a penalty, and then we should have won it before extra time. They were down to 10.
Yeah.
And we should have beaten them, and we just couldn't. And if we'd have beaten them, we'd have played South Korea in the quarterfinal, and we'd have probably beaten them because they weren't good. They were just a home nation. And you'd have got a semi-final against Germany. Those are the dream scenarios I know you're talking about. But and that was the famous Roy Keane storming out and all that kind of jazz. So there was a lot of emotion and connection into that as well. It's really, it just goes to show that sport does have that romanticism and again, if you want to use an NFL analogy, imagine the Miami Dolphins had to win 2 games to qualify. And the first game was against the Bills, and they went and got the Bills, and then they would have had to play, I don't know, who would I pick? It's not the Steelers, but the Ravens. Maybe not the Ravens, the Seahawks away, and then to score a touchdown with a last play out of nowhere from the halfway when the guy was about to get sacked. That's the only way, with no stars on the field, bar scales.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show that sport is about confidence, and sport is about belief, and sport is about design, wanting. And you see it in the Chicago Bears team. You see a lot of that same mentality. Guys, it goes back to my old point at the start about guys who were standing up when you don't expect them to stand up. And I put a tweet out last week, and I put another one out this week, which is who's going to be the superstar this week? Who's going to be the standout player this week? Who's going to be the guy that it could be Zacchaeus, it could be Josh Blackwell, it could be Troy Taylor with a punt that puts it down to the 1 yard line. It could be anything. It's so many different players are stepping up right now, and it's an absolute joy. I've got to say this: it's a joy being a Bears fan right now. I look forward to Sundays. I look forward with confidence to the games. And poor little chip has to listen to me at 1 o'clock in the morning as I'm screaming around the place. But girlfriend seems to be turning off her ears.
Yeah, listen, that's just part of it, though, man. But you're right. I think you're spot on. Like, you don't always have to have a superstar team to do well. You know, if you want to play for the coach and they get you motivated in a certain way, you know, you'll find a way to do it. The Bears have got that with Ben Johnson, but they've also got ability and skill and talent on top of that as well. And it's just like working out how to harness it. And they're already doing it in parts. And it'll get there. It'll get there over time. But yeah, excited for the game at the weekend again. Have a wee bit extra fire in the belly though this week because it's going to be Mr. Rogers coming to Chicago. But we'll be taking the landlord title off of him this weekend for sure. Anyway, and anything else from yourself before we head off into the sunset?
It's snowing where I am. So other than that, no.
It was snowing here last night as well. It didn't lie though because it was wet in the ground. But aye.
The snow was everywhere. If we were in either Scotland or Ireland, everyone would be out of work. And instead, the Swedes, they're all smart. I look forward to Sunday.
They love it. So am I. We'll probably be back next Wednesday again. Well, we will be back next Wednesday again. I don't know if we'll be back before then. We might surprise people. You never know. I've got an idea about doing a game day live show. So if people are interested in it, we can absolutely do it and see how things work out. But listen again, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Remember to like us and follow us and all that jazz, and tell your friends about us. As I say, tune in next week, and hopefully next week we're sitting on an 8-3 record. But until then, thanks very much. Take care of yourself. Bear down, and God bless.
Bear down.